Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
Good morning, I am Bandula Jayasakara, you are with Newsline. I need to make an announcement first because this is about diversity. Chitrasena Vajira, the dance company, is going to have a special show and it's free of charge on Sunday at the Kathiresan Hall, where they have got artists from north and east and they have trained them for a considerable period of time, and they are going to have a special presentation called a work in progress. There will be the Saraswati Puja lecture demonstration, shared stories from Batiklo, and a short dance drama on the Same or the peace. It will be at the Kathiresan Hall on Sunday and it's free of charge, and it's a special. They have taken a lot of trouble, Chitsen and Vajra Dance Company, to bring artists from north and east together. Today we are joined by the founder editor of the Sunday Times and the Sunday Island, author, writer and well-known publisher, Mr. Vijitayappa. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tomorrow is the beginning of another international book fair, the Colombo International Book Fair. What's in store for the readers?
Well, this year we have it for 10 days, which is very unusual. So we are having it on 2 weekends also. Plus on Saturday we will be open till midnight, so that even the busy people will be able to find time to come and visit the book fair. We have a number of international publishers also participating.
So what are the countries?
Well, there's people from Germany, from Japan, from India, from China, England, various other countries also. So it's a good opportunity for people to come and get special books published in various other countries at this book fair.
Many people have complained that your book fair has lost the human face as it has grown. Do you agree, disagree, or what have you got to say? It's become too big and the warmth is gone.
I don't know what they mean by the human face, but as far as the book fair organizers are concerned, we've tried to accommodate everybody. We have 175 members of our organization.
And you have 175 stalls or more than
175 members,
yeah.
And there are over 400 stalls.
Yeah.
So we have tried to accommodate everybody. There is also a section for stationery, because stationery is also an important thing. But this is where the latest books are available. For instance, the Road to Rantikadal is a book that we expect will make huge waves at the book fair, but we have a problem with regard to getting supplies.
Which was published last week.
Which was published last week by Major General Kamal Gunaratne, and it sold out virtually everything that was published. So now we ordered a special edition for the book fair.
And then that's making news. Plus, General Fonseca says he's also going to write a book. Did he approach you?
No, he has not approached me.
It's all in the media that he will write a book, and he has said, okay, certain secrets were leaked, and I hope he approaches you and we'll get to read his book next year.
I wish him good luck, but writing a book is not so easy, and I don't know whether he'll be able to do it by next year. Even in the case of Major General Kamal Gunaratne, it's taken him over 4 years to write these experiences. What is important about this book though is that for the first time we have a Sri Lankan army officer who was involved in the war writing about his experiences and what happened. Most of the books on Sri Lanka, especially on the war, are written by Indians.
How come? How come? That's interesting.
Well, because it's very difficult to get people to write.
No, but then how come our friends in India, they have written? How did they write?
Most of them, they use computers, and whatever information is available, they use it. Some, of course, have come here, but then also meeting officials here is also not very easy, and especially those who are serving in the armed forces. So I think this is the first time that we are having something coming, if you might call it, from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, then also
very intricate details are given.
Some of the viewers were saying that the publishers use this book fair to get rid of or dispose old books.
No, there is a special section called the bargain counters, and there are 15 stalls there where old books are sold, or books which are damaged, and those sort of things are sold. But the rest of the book fair consists of all new books.
All new books. So that's a special section.
That's a special section, yes.
And then also there's another allegation that, okay, you have this book fair, but there are lots of stationery sold. It's more than books there is for stationery sellers.
No, that's not true. Only about, I think it's less than 10% of the stalls are available to people who are selling stationery. But stationery is also an important item for school children. So a lot of people who expect to buy their supplies at the book fair.
But books are very expensive in Sri Lanka.
It's not that books are expensive. It is expensive when compared to India. Yes, there's about a 20% difference. But if you look at the books published in the West, America and Britain, it's about 30% cheaper. That is because they give us special prices. In the case of Indians, not only are the discounts low, but in addition to that, they have to ship it here. We have to pay for taxes, the nation building tax as well as the port and airport levy. And it is assumed that we make a 25% profit. So that is also added on to when these taxes are imposed on us. Only thing is that the only concession is that books are tax free. But we hope that in the budget this time there will be special provision, especially for imported books and also for paper, which is imported from overseas, where books are published here, so that we could give books at a much lower price.
Before I get on to the next question, I have to apologize to you, because yesterday I announced that Captain Renuka Senanayake, president of the Sri Lankan Airlines Pilots Guild, would join us. He would also join us today, but he's unable to make it because he gave me a call from wherever he is stationed last night, and he said he's unable to return to Sri Lanka on time, that he would join us next week. Now, last year, now talking of the books and how expensive, the chief guest was Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. We all know that he loves books, and like Mrs. Wickremesinghe also, they love books, they read, and good readers, and he promised concessions. Now, just 1 year, what has happened to that? Have you got concessions? Can you give us cheap books? Can you give us at a special price?
No, unfortunately, no concessions have been granted to us. But
everybody reported, it was reported widely, 1 year has gone.
I think he announced it also in Parliament that he is releasing the taxes on books, but unfortunately I think with all these problems that have arisen with regard to the budget and also VAT and everything else, it has not occurred. We hope that at least in the November budget that these things will be corrected.
Because if concessions are given for books and other items, people will support, everybody would support it.
Yeah, very. Now, in the case of India, what happens is they produce their own paper. They produce a lot of the machinery. They produce a lot of things in India itself. In our case, we have to import all this, and taxes are imposed on them. So that's where the problem arises. And the other thing is, because of the restricted market, some books, only 250 are printed, sometimes 500,000. But that also brings up the cost of the books, because the printer doesn't have even enough time to start the machinery when the book is already out on the production.
But our children suffer, right? They can't get a cheap books. It's so expensive, especially from the village.
Well, those problems are of course there, but there is another side to it, which is that if you go to any village in Sri Lanka, you will find books published in India. But you go to even the best shops, bookshops in India, you can't find books on Sri Lanka. So these are battle we are having. For instance, even this Major General's book, on Monday I was discussing with a very big publisher in India. The question he asked me is, how will Tamil Nadu react? I was shocked. Tamil Nadu is only just one state.
Yeah, but now this is when you're saying now you have the Indian books here and then you don't have any Sri Lankan books. Then, what are your thoughts on ECTA? Now they're discussing about this. Is it going to affect you all, the publishers? What will happen if this come into play?
The thing is that with regard to the booksellers in India, they have to take an important decision about selling books. Most of them are only interested in selling their books to us, not taking our books there. This is also the problem with regard to also Sri Lankan goods in India.
So will you take it up with the Prime Minister? Have you made representation to Minister Malik Samaravikrama? Have you all taken this up?
The issue here is that these have to be decided by the individual publishers and the printers. There are some books which have been printed in India, but where those books have been printed, they are looking at selling those books to Sri Lanka, not in their own country. So this is a major issue now. Ashok Ferry's book is one example. One publisher bought it, but the price that we are selling the book at is virtually double when we were selling it here. But the publisher has said you cannot publish it in Sri Lanka. So we are less stranded.
So what would you do about it?
Well, one thing is to promote our books, but we don't have any budgets for that. And this is where the government can help us, especially participation in international fairs, where our books can be exposed. But we need to have provision for us to meet publishers and booksellers and try and get them to buy our books. They won't buy it on their own unless it's a very big book.
Now I want to also ask you, now we had last week Commodore Ajit Boyagoda who wrote this book, A Long Watch. Now he, in his book he has written that when he was in LTT custody for 8 years, you had sent books to him. What made you do that?
Well, it actually came through the Red Cross and a request by him, and they asked us and we certainly wanted to help. So we provided National Geographic, Reader's Digest, Newsweek magazines free to him, and these did actually reach him, and that's what he says in the book, so that's very important.
That kept him going?
Yeah, that kept him going. But it's a problem, how do you get, of course we don't have a war now, but I don't know even in other countries whether there is a facility for prisoners to get special.
But I think International Committee of Red Cross, they get involved.
Yeah.
They help. Now what's happening? What's going to happen tomorrow? Now are you going to have special book readings? Anything special for the visitors?
Yes, there will be special book readings. There will be special programs for children. There will be special book launches. There's drama,
Mr.
music.
We'll take a, sorry to interrupt you, we'll take a short break and we'll be back with you. Welcome back to Newsline. Faraz Shaukat Ali is holidaying in the United Kingdom and we are joined by Vijitha Appa today. Now we are talking about the concessions and I'm sorry about the plan, the book launches, the book readings. That's what we're discussing. If you could tell our viewers who are the new authors, what sort of book readings and what sort of launches would take place.
Yeah, we do not have any international authors, but we will have a lot of Sri Lankans who will be presenting their books, including the winner of the Swarna Pustaka Award, which is the most prestigious Sinhala award, Silenarachi, his new book. And also there will be representatives coming from China, India and other countries, where we'll be also holding discussions with them. But more than that, it's an opportunity for people to come to this fair, mingle and also to see what is actually happening in the printed world.
But what about the book readings and specific? Now I'm very keen on like all 3 languages, Sinhala, English and Tamil, if you could tell our viewers.
Yes, unfortunately I was away in India and just came back, and I do not have the specific details of who are the authors and others who are participating in the thing, but there will be some very interesting discussions.
In all 3 languages, this is very important because you know we have like less books in Tamil, you know, this is important for us.
Yes, in all 3 languages. Yes, there are some Tamil books which are also being presented at the book fair.
What's in store for children? Anything special for children and the children's section, children's books?
Yes, there's drawing sections for children. There's also book readings by well-known personalities. In fact, I remember some time back we had the American ambassador coming and participating in the book readings. So it's an opportunity for people to participate. The other thing is that I must mention, on Saturday the book fair will be open till midnight, so that people who are very busy and who don't have the time to come will be able to come and browse between 9 and 12. Normally the book fair is from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. but on Saturday it will be open till midnight.
Now we want to, any make a special request on behalf of our network, that why don't you consider having a special day, a separate day for differently able people, because it's very difficult for them to get in.
No,
it's very difficult with this big crowds, Mr. Appa.
Disabled people, they are allowed to come into the book fair. There is no charge.
No charge.
There is no charge. School children dressed in uniform, clergy, they are all, and also people in the armed forces, they are all allowed it free. That's one way. The other thing is, I must mention that 2 weeks ago I was at a function at the BMICH. They were charging 100 rupees, and that function was only for 3 days. Now in our case we are charging only 20 rupees, a very minimal amount, and this amount also, it does not come to the book publishers. It is used to give scholarships to poor children who cannot afford to go into the universities. So they are specially chosen for this, and that's what we use that.
But my question, Mr. Appa, is now, okay, we have to show compassion. Next year, maybe you can't do it this year. Allocate a separate day, one day for the disabled people, because I agree that they can come, but it's very difficult for them to, move. So if you could consider that, I think we talk of so much of compassion in the country, because it will be a big thing if you could do that. Next year, I know this year you can't.
Yeah, I don't think we can allocate one
even
special
half a day.
Yes, what I suggested that they should come in the mornings, because the crowd is less in the mornings rather than in the evenings, because it's very expensive to run a book fair like this, and the millions that are charged for the grounds, because we don't have any special place where we can hold a major book fair like this. In other countries you have things like the Pragati Maidan, the Olympia Stadium.
That's in New Delhi, Pragati Maidan.
In New Delhi. But here there is no one place where you can exhibit these books and have it all under one roof. So this is a crying need in Sri Lanka, that if we are going into international things, that we must have a place where such events can be held.
You are a publisher, you are a well-known publisher. What would you tell the budding authors? How would you say something? How would you encourage them to write more and get it published? Because there are lots of people have ideas they want to do, but they find it very difficult.
Yeah, you mentioned about General Fonseca earlier.
Yeah.
I think anybody, the first thing is to sit down and apply the seat of your pants to a seat, a chair, and sit down and write it. I think that's the most difficult part. Lots of ideas are there, but to find the time. Then there are various programs that are available as far as computers are concerned, where you can even speak into into a microphone, and it's automatically typed out in English. I don't know if this is available in Sinhala. So these are facilities that can be used by ordinary people to produce what I feel are extraordinary books if they really apply themselves.
What about poetry?
Poetry, the same thing. The demand for poetry is much, much less. At the Gratian Awards, there was a lot of emphasis on poetry, but very few people, unfortunately, buy books on poetry. So there's a reluctance as far as the publishers are concerned to get involved in that. But there are poetry books available.
Now, you are the founder editor of the Sunday Times as well as the Sunday Island. What happened to those poetry pages in newspapers, be it in English, Sinhala or Tamil? What happened to those pages?
I think that you have to ask the editors of the current newspapers. But during my time, we certainly encouraged, we had special pages for these, and people are encouraged to write in.
So only what about the demand for the cartoons? It's very important to know the cartoons.
Cartoons, there is a tremendous demand, because just in a few you got a little bit of space, you can find amusement, you can find things, you can laugh. So I think cartoons are very, very important, and there's a big demand even in the Western countries. You have pages and pages devoted to cartoons.
Like our people, Sri Lankans, they still come and buy Calvin and Hobbes and the Tintin comics. What's more, and the Asterix, of course.
Yes, they do that. Those are the most popular. But of course, the problem is that they are expensive. They are not cheap. So that's another issue. We tried to bring them out into local languages. In fact, I must tell you a very interesting story about Tintin. There's a thing where Captain Haddock is on a river cruise and he sees a crocodile, and he tells somebody, "Can you please bring me the rifle so that I can polish him off?" And in the Sinhala edition, the original translation said, "Mata me ikmanta tuwakkuවක් ගෙනල්ලා දෙන්න මේ කිඹුලාව polish කරන්න."
Yeah. But who checks on these things?
That was caught in time, so it was not published. But that's the sort of problems we have, that some words that are used, they just mechanically translate it, and they don't.
And Mr. Abba, you have so many books like that, whether it's comics or other books published in English. But how could you help our Sinhala and Tamil readers? Can you get these things translated? How would you help? Is there any possibility?
There are translations, but there's also problems like this. Now, some publishers, unfortunately, are publishing books without taking the copyright, especially for translation into Sinhala books. They don't publish it in English. So this has created a major problem, because according to the IPA, International Publishers Association, copyright is a very important factor, because after all, that person has slaved to produce that book and he must get something. Very often it's a very nominal amount that is charged, but I think our publishers also need to get that permission before they publish it. Yeah. So this is a big issue.
We'll go back, we'll take a short break and we'll be back with you in a moment. Welcome back to Newsline. We are discussing about the book fair with Mr. Vichitayappa. Mr. Vichitayappa, I know you were the founder editor of the Sunday Times as well as the Island. Do you miss Upali Vijayawardena?
Very much. He was an amazing publisher, in that he allowed freedom, which was very, very important at that time. And he allowed us to publish things. I remember a number of instances where cabinet ministers used to try and force him to do various things, and he said, "I don't tell you what to do in cabinet, so therefore please don't tell me what to do with my newspaper." So a lot of conflicts that occurred between him and others.
Is it because he had the backing of President Jayajabadana? Because his relative, like his uncle or cousin?
Yes, it is his relative, but then on the other hand, there were problems that arose. For instance, I remember one instance where he wanted an interview with the Far Eastern Economic Review. So I invited the correspondent here, Mervin Manik De Silva, to come and meet.
Who's the editor of the Sunday Island today?
Today he's the editor of the Sunday Island, but at that time he was the editor of the Daily News. And he wrote an article about Upali, and then he asked him, "Is it true that you want to become the president?" And Upali replied, "What else is there?" So he had achieved, he had risen to the top of his profession and his activities. So when the magazine came out, he asked me to get 6 copies, and the first one he sent to Uncle Diggy.
Oh, Jayajabadana.
And the second one he sent to Mr. Premadasa, who was the Prime Minister at the time. And Mr. Premadasa, unfortunately, was furious. He didn't take it kind way, because he was aspiring to be president. But he was a tremendous personality, and in everything he did, there was something that one learnt. I remember one instance, this was actually at the Board of Investment, where he wanted an investigation done on a memorial being built for the people who had died in an Indonesian plane crash near Katunayaka. And this person who did the investigation, who was one of the GCEC or Board of Investment officials, came and gave the report, huge tome. Upali looked at it and he said, "What is this?" He said, "This is the report, and please tell us what to do." And he took that book and pushed it towards this man, and it struck him here. And he said, "I have not hired you as a manager for me to take decisions. You tell me what to do." So that is a tremendous lesson. How many people do that? They all want to make decisions on their own. So that's why there are lots of personalities, personal things about Upali Vijayawardena where I learned a lot.
Now, moving on, the right to information. You think it will be a reality? What are your thoughts as a very senior editor?
Well, it's a very difficult question, because especially in a country like ours, where very little information is actually passed on to newspapers. I remember one instance where we had a young chap, Winston de Vallier, I don't know if you remember him. He went and locked himself up in the central bank when some information was not given to him. He found out where the files were kept. He waited there overnight, and then after the office closed, he went to that filing cabinet, took out the files, read everything, and then he hid in the toilet, and next morning he walked away free. So lots of
I'm very sorry that I'm missing my good friend Faraz Shaukat Ali. Maybe when he returns we should do that, because he specializes on this bond case and the bond issue.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zia, for joining us, and we hope to discuss this, especially this right to information, with you later. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Dr. Udena Artigala. Have a nice day.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.